members of the council. The item before you is a bid award for construction contract for what is commonly called a stimulus package project, so funding that came through the ARRA program. This is actually the second phase of this particular project. The first phase occurred last summer and into the fall, and installed a number of bus shelters and sidewalk improvements throughout the city. This phase of the project will install 2 shelters and an information kiosk, as well as, again, install a number of sections of sidewalk throughout the city and some ADA access ramps as well. In fact, pretty heavily invested in that portion of the work. The project was put out to bid, and through our normal public bid process, bids were opened on May 10th. We had 3 bidders. In this case, the low bid was McCall's Classic Construction out of Clarkston. Their bid was in the amount of $78,879.75, which was a bit above the city engineer's estimate for the project. However, the grant funding is available, and there's sufficient grant money available to cover this contract amount. So we're recommending that it does proceed, excuse me. The one item on this that I guess caught people's attention, and part of the reason it's a regular agenda item tonight rather than consent as originally intended, is the question that has been raised once again about whether or not 2 shelters should go in Friendship Square. And if you'll recall, this was something that the council looked at last fall, and some decisions were made. The contract has been prepared based upon those decisions and has been moving forward. Recently, the question has arisen again, and a briefing was made to the Public Works Finance Committee at their last meeting. There was discussion about should we look at this again, and the committee felt it would be appropriate to do so, and so that discussion is scheduled for the next meeting next week. And so we'll talk at that time about whether or not continuing with 2 shelters in Friendship Square is what indeed we still want to do. If it turns out it is not, then that second shelter doesn't go to waste. It can go elsewhere on the system. The project will continue to fund it. It's still grant eligible. We can include that work via change order to this contract if indeed we decide to make a change. Okay. But for this evening, really what we're looking at is the award of the contract as is. There's no reason to make any modifications at this time. We can proceed with it as advertised and as bid. And so the recommendation from staff is that we do award the contract to McCall's Classic Construction.
Thank you, Les. Council have any questions for Les about that? Okay. Wayne, you had a committee conversation about that?
Public Works and Finance looked at this last week. We had the same report. Les answered the questions tonight that we had already asked him at that time. And we will discuss the idea or the concept of having a smaller bus shelter on the east side next week. As Les said, awarding this bid does not affect whether we have 2 bus shelters or not. One thing we might want to discuss also, Les, is if it's decided that a second bus shelter is not necessary. Original plans were to put the kiosk on the east side, and we might want to look at that also. We'll see what happens when we discuss all that. So other than that, make a motion to accept the low bid and award the contract to McCall's Classic Construction.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Nope. Okay. Hearing none, we'll start the roll call vote with you, Tim.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That motion carries, and that construction amount was $78,879.75.
Yep.